And welcome, everybody. I know you're excited. This is the last lecture of the semester. Congratulations on making it this far. This is week 15, and this week we're going to be going through customer retention from game time to renewal. And notice that it says from game time to renewal, not just at renewal, right? So we need to keep in mind that it is more important, it is probably much easier. In fact, the numbers will show it's much easier to retain clients than it is to go out and get a new client. And we've been talking all semester about that. So just a quick note as well, great work with the Paducah Chiefs baseball assignment. I know that was a real world project where you actually had to get comfortable with the uncomfortable of reaching out to people on a cold call. So great work on that. I look forward to reading your reports and most importantly, look to see what you've been learning through this semester put into action. So really appreciate your time and your effort. And again, let's jump right into this final lecture. So here's some of the key terms. These are probably familiar terms. Some may be new terms, but we're going to talk a lot about each of these. Again, I know that you've seen customer retention before, you've seen relationship marketing before, you've seen analytics before, you've seen the customer life cycle before, but some such as big data or after marketing or, sportscape, things of that nature might be a little different. So make sure that you are looking through each of these terms. Again, you have your final exam coming up just a week from now. And it's really important that you focus in on this last chapter because there will be plenty of material from this last chapter on the final exam. Hint, hint. So make sure that you're really going through and understanding the terms as well as obviously this last chapter. So customer relationships, let's delve into what customer relationships are. Teams will win, they'll lose. We've all seen that. We're all, fans of sport in some way or shape or form, as we've discussed throughout the semester. Teams win and then they lose. So how do you really build customer loyalty? And customer loyalty specifically, it really focuses on, the ability for a customer to continually feel that the organization's products or services are the best selection for their time, their money, their resources, their well-being, all of those things that go into it. And the key is with relationships. We've talked about that throughout. It's not just important to sell somebody something one time, but rather it's important to understand who they are, what makes them tick, why they purchase certain things, what their motivation is, so that you can develop a relationship that's hopefully mutually beneficial, but also long lasting. And you can see here, the worst team in the NBA still plays the best team. And that's the case, night in and night out. You have some of the worst teams playing some of the best teams. So, there are plenty of reasons for fans to still show up, even if they're supporting a team that's not necessarily winning. And for some events, such as the group that you called about last week, and in the previous weeks, the Paducah Chiefs, it is a college summer league baseball team comprised of baseball players from different colleges around the country that come to Paducah in my hometown in Kentucky to play for the Paducah Chiefs for 2 months out of the year. They have their university teams to go back to in the fall. They're coming off of their university seasons from that spring. And quite frankly, in the community of Paducah, people are not necessarily, focused on whether the Chiefs are winning or losing games, but they're really more focused on if they have something to do, if they have something that they feel is valuable to the community, that is valuable to them as individuals, something to get out of the house. There are a number of different reasons, and I can promise you that winning or losing is not necessarily in the top 10 of reasons of why people choose to support the Paducah Chiefs. So you can't think that it's always about winning, even though that is certainly helpful. I think that would certainly be something that most organizations would say. We talked early in the semester about teams like the Tampa Bay Rays, who are consistently year in and year out very, very good, the cream of the crop in the major leagues, but yet they don't draw any fans, right? So there has to be other things that go into that. And again, we touched on customer loyalty a little bit. It's that continuous feeling that the products and services offered by the organization. Notice it doesn't just say the products, but also the services are the best. So creating an increasing customer lifetime value, which is really, the net profit of a long-term repeat customer, and notice that new customers cost 5 to 10 times more than it is, to retain a current customer, right? And the good thing about a current customer is the fact that they've already spent with you. So you're already bringing in that revenue to offset any cost that it's taken to get them through the door. So let's look at the social CRM framework. We've been talking about CRMs through the semester and why those are important. So CRMs, for those that can't remember, are customer relationship management systems. And there are essentially three different types that we can see, and they're showed in the chapter. So the first is an analytical CRM, which is basically something that it's basically a collection of customer data, information to create a model to increase customer revenues over the life cycle. Then you have the behavioral CRM system or approach, which is the use of focus groups of surveys to uncover the psychology of customer choice to inform a strategy to better retain customers. And then finally, you have the traditional CRM, which is also known as the social CRM. And that is really focused on a business's one-way communication method to increase sales throughout the customer lifecycle. And traditional CRM is something that is noticed pretty frequently through businesses. Most will use a traditional CRM system. The others may be a little more unique, but those are pretty much the three that are very common. And then finally, you have a social CRM system, which is basically just an expansion of the traditional CRM. So it can be lumped into that traditional CRM, but it's really focused on the involvement of customer engagement throughout the customer lifecycle. And what is the customer lifecycle? That's the engagement of customer from the very first interaction to repeat interactions. And they can be all over the board. It can be trying to sell again. It can be trying to retain again. Notice that this is a very fluid with current customers. You are doing everything that you can to make sure that they're happy and that they feel warranted, and that they feel that, as we talked about in the very beginning, the continuous feeling, and notice it says the continuous feeling that an organization's products and services are the best selection for their time, their money, their resources, et cetera, et cetera. So let's talk about how you can retain customers. The first step for that is gaining, valuing, and utilizing customer feedback. Again, customer retention itself are there actionable steps that a customer takes to produce loyal and lifetime customers. So not just to produce, but also to maintain. It's really important to notice that I think that the book leaves out an important segment of that definition of customer retention, because it's really not just about building and producing, but it's really about maintaining as well. So for gaining value and utilizing customer feedback, there are a number of things that are there, such as, certain analytics for customer retention to gauge a customer sentiment. So how a customer feels about a product or a service. Perhaps they've purchased and they are not having a good time, right? They're not enjoying the product. They're not enjoying the services. Finding out that from one person, even though you may lose that customer, is really important going forward, so that you can either rectify the situation or you can do your very best to take those suggestions and apply them to other customers so that you can keep them happy and keep that pool going, so that not every single person falls out for the exact same reasons. Then you have customer behavior, which is essentially the study of mechanisms by which customer chooses to use or not use a product. So are they purchasing or are they not purchasing? Big data, which is the collection and management of really large data sets from which managers can draw conclusions, right? So we talk about this through the semester. The more information that you know about somebody, the more collection that you have, the more analytical you can become, and better the decision-making that you can have, which plays, of course, into analytics itself, which is just analysis of data in order to provide information, make insights into decision-making, into purchasing, into selling. So here are a few strategies that you can use to gain feedback, to get that big data and to activate your analytics. So the first are focus groups. You have online surveys and polls. You can have analytical software that goes into it. You can talk person to person with people. You can use proprietary or product trials, where people can actually experience it. You can work on live chats or website forums. You can monitor your social media accounts to see what sort of interactions are working, what interactions are not working, what people are saying. And then, of course, other incentives or perks used to reward participants for sharing information. So just a couple to focus that may be a little unfamiliar or less familiar. So focus groups specifically, focus group is considered a small group. Some people will say 5 to 15 people. Some people will say less than 10. It really just depends on kind of the sample size that you're looking at. Obviously, for larger sample sizes, focus groups may be a little larger, but essentially it's a small group of people who are brought together, and there's a moderator, perhaps working on behalf of the organization, perhaps they're not working on behalf of the organization, and they're going to discuss a topic to get feedback, and very direct, informal, very personal and informal as well, to try to get information. Certain analytic software that's out there, it's basically technology that's used to gather and analyze data sets in order to enhance business objectives. And those can depending on the type of business, depending on the type of industry. In sports specifically, you may be wanting to gather data sets to say, okay, are people purchasing more on the weekends? Are they purchasing more during the week? Are they purchasing more for night games or day games? Are they dependent on the weather? Are they dependent on the time of year? All of those things are relevant. They can be figured out through different analytical software. It just is technology that allows us to draw conclusions rather than having to run that information ourselves. And then, live chat and website forums, this is just public online discussion. Sometimes, teams will get interactive and they'll get some of their stars to participate in these. Sometimes they'll have, the general manager or the director of marketing, whomever it may be, just to give different perspectives and allow people to feel connected, that the organization is actually listening to the things that I'm saying, whether they be positive or negative. So the second principle for customer retention is focused on a comprehensive customer service plan. So customer service, we're very familiar with customer service, whether it's going to a place like Chick-fil-A. If you all have had Chick-fil-A before, that they offer incredible customer service. They're very, very respectful. They're very engaged into what it is that they can do to help the customer. Other organizations like Walmart or other organizations like restaurants, where they may be a little bit different, but they're all really focused on the customer service, or at least they should be. And all good businesses should be focused on customer service, because without customers, there is no business, or there's no successful business rather. But the best one to do is Disney. And the Disney approach is worldwide renowned. In fact, they have what's called the Disney sales training course, where you can actually go and you can learn what it is to be a Disney employee. If you're a Disney employee, one day you may be a mascot, you may be Mickey Mouse. One day you may be picking up, trash from the ground. Whether you're a senior level executive, whether you're an entry level person who's just seasonal, there is the same approach from Disney, and that is that the customer is always right, that we are doing everything we can to bring this magical place to life for every single person that walks through that door, and that includes the employees. So it's really, really cool. If you haven't ever done any sort of research into the Disney model, I highly recommend it. But some of those are listed in table 14.4 on page 430 of your textbook. And the one that I pointed out was, don't be dopey. Thank each customer for their time. Thank them for their feedback. Thank them for, compliments. Thank them for every single thing that they do. And if you notice, a lot of these things are very, very intangible things that every single one of you can do. So I challenge you, when you go into your daily life, but also when you go into your profession, that these are all things that you can do to make the difference. And I tell people that whenever I'm hiring for new employees, it's really easy to teach people the hard skills, but it's not very easy to teach people the soft skills. And the soft skills are really what makes the difference, especially in those entry-level positions. So read through these on table 14.4 in your textbook. And again, understand that in a sport organization specifically, these can make all the difference. It can really make all the difference. So that's really important. So building into that, the sport organization approach, you can see in table 14.5, This is the family approach to promoting a positive fan experience. It has everything from, greeting everyone that you come in contact with, saying thank you, giving really accurate directions. If you don't know the answer, telling somebody that you don't know the answer, but that you will gladly find out for them, or make sure that you can guide them to somebody who can give them an answer. You're courteous, you're pleasant, you smile, you have fun. You remember people's names when they give them to you. Just really, really, basic things, intangible things. Try to, anticipate fans' needs and really be proactive in serving, the fan experience. So that's really, really good information. Having a detailed customer service plan, it's not enough to be reactive in customer service. You have to be proactive. And with that, that takes a very, customized service plan for every single person that's a part. Needs to have the basic functions. So if you're interacting, again, somebody from the senior level team or an entry level person who's cleaning a bathroom, it needs to be the same service throughout the board and the same mentality. Avoid the 10 deadly sins that you can see in 14.6. This is really important too. You can read through those. I'm not going to list all of them. But the number one thing that I see is I don't care, right? Apathetic employees that you can tell just don't want to be there. If you can just avoid some of these, I promise you're going to make all the difference in the world, and you're really going to be successful. It doesn't matter really what it's really about how you act, how you carry yourself, and everything else can be brought, to your attention. You can be brought up to speed. And then just understanding that the customer is always right. Even when they're wrong, they're right. And that really means that you're taking a mentality that you're not chastising people, you're not looking down at people, you're not telling them that they're necessarily wrong, but rather you're appreciating for what they bring to the table. You're appreciating them for helping, because their money and their resources and them being there is the reason that sport organizations can exist, and it's the reason that you have a job. So you need to remember all of this at the same time, that yes, even when somebody's being rude to you, somebody's being mean to you, that you need to keep that in mind, and you need to understand that it's really bigger than just this individual person. All right, so the third principle is relationship building through aftermarketing. Aftermarketing is basically the approach to retaining or developing customers after the customer has already purchased the product. And remember, we said from game time to renewal time. This is what that's talking about. Aftermarketing is something that is used very effectively to retain customers. Again, keeping in mind that it can be 5 to 10 times more expensive for an organization to go out and get a new customer than it is to just, appreciate the customer that you have, provide a good experience so that they'll renew, as well as hopefully use the word of mouth to bring in their peers. Relationship marketing, which we talked about as well, is basically a strategy that uses sport and non-sport managers to pursue, retain, and develop customers throughout the customer life cycle in a very co-collaborative approach. And something through retention as well is, setting, smart objectives. So things that are specific, things that are measurable, things that are attainable, things that are relevant, and then things that are timely. So all the objectives that you're setting through your customer retention, should be smart objectives. They should be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and most importantly, timely, so that you understand if you're being successful or you're not being successful through your objectives. So all keep those in mind as you will. But most importantly is that aftermarketing approach, where you're really, you continue to sell as you go through the relationship building process. As soon as somebody's purchased, you're still selling to them to make sure that they feel part of that organization, that they feel that identity, and it can create the loyalty that comes with it. The fourth principle is the utilization of technology. So we talk about a number of different things. Obviously, technology specifically is extremely important in our lives today. So we talk about the ease of purchase for technology. So, the ease of purchase through technology, rather, for customers, the ease of renewal, and then the ease of communication. And here are a number of ways that sport organizations do that. especially as, the older generation, the boomers and people like that get a little bit older. They weren't as fortunate to grow up with technology, or maybe they were more fortunate, honestly, to not grow up with technology the way that we did. But notice that it is extremely difficult sometimes for people of different generations to use technology. So it has to be easy. It has to be really easy for people to purchase, it has to be really easy for people to renew. It's be really easy for people to communicate with the organization and vice versa. Communication from the organization to the customer as well needs to be really important. So here are a few things. So everything from a post-game survey, thank you for coming last night. We hope that you had a great time. It was because of you that, the Chiefs won the game, or it was because of you that we were able to reach this milestone, or whatever it may be. But just a quick thank you. Did you have a good time? Did you not have a good time? And then hear things where you can submit your feedback, whether they're positive, whether they're negatives. Reminders, sending people reminders about game time, sending people reminders about renewals, sending people reminders about anything that's going on with the organization. Different ticket options as well, ways to purchase, ways to resell tickets. We've talked throughout of what the obligation is to actually have a full season ticket. And a lot of times people can't, don't have the ability to go to every single game. Even organizations that are purchasing at a very high level are not using tickets every single time. So is it an easy way to resell those tickets so that the organization is not just losing out on the money, or the customer's not just losing out on the money? For other events, whether it's concerts, whether, different sporting events that are coming through, whether it's shows, whatever it may be, reminding them of the other opportunities that they have the ability to see at the particular venue. And then vendor purchases, in-game concessions, maybe, purchasing in advance, having, some places will have where you can purchase from your app and then you can go to the pickup area and you can pick it up. In other ways, in some places, they'll have an attendant who will come around. You can purchase from there and they'll deliver it to your seat. So having, different opportunities for purchasing within games as well are great examples of utilizing technology within sport. And then lastly and finally, evaluation and upgrade, right? So what are the strengths? What are the weaknesses that you're getting from the customers? What is the response from the customers? What's the return on investment? Are we spending too much money to gain what we're gaining? Are we just getting new customers coming through because our old customers or our current customers are not going to renew and they're not appreciating what's going on? What strategies are working? What strategies are not working? These are all important things to know. And a lot of the ways that people utilize these are through an evaluation matrix. So essentially setting a goal, finding a metric for that. So the book says, increase rookie season ticket renewal by 5%. And the metric used for that is the number of rookie season ticket renewals. The measurement for this is a report on the number of season ticket holders that are choosing to renew. And then the time is measurement based off of, whatever time that may be. So the past year or the current year, whatever that is. So having an evaluation matrix so you understand what the goal is, how you're gonna, what were you gonna use to achieve this goal, how you're gonna measure that, and then what timeline, what time frame it's gonna be over, right? So this is all really kind of basic stuff. It's just utilizing it in different, functions throughout the organization. So understanding an evaluation of your customers, and then different upgrade possibilities that are there. Again, understanding the strengths and the weaknesses, but then really figuring out what is working, what is not working. Are we being successful? Are we not being successful? What do we continue to need to do? And then vice versa, which are we not need to continue to do? All of these are really important. So that basically brings us to the end of the chapter. It also brings us to the end of the semester as well. Again, I just want to thank you for everything that you've done throughout the semester. I've enjoyed teaching you. I hope that you've enjoyed learning throughout this course. I wish we could have had more in-person time, but that's the world that we live in right now. So I appreciate your diligence. Definitely, if you have any questions about anything leading up to the final exam, don't hesitate to reach out. But in the meantime, thanks so much. Have a great rest of your week. And I look forward to hearing and seeing you very soon.